Okay, so Jody and Ruby both pleaded guilty. Shocker. Shocker that they both pleaded guilty. But then it says in the documents of the court, states that the youngest daughter was forced to jump in a cactus multiple times. Now, it didn't go through all the abuse, but it states she was forced to jump into a cactus multiple times. As punishment? Okay. It says the youngest son had been kicked. The youngest son had been kicked and held underwater. Both children have been forced to do physical tasks for hours or days. Hours to days. They had no water, no food. They were isolated from others. Ruby blames the counseling she received from Jody as to why this occurred. During the sentencing, Ruby apologized to her husband and her children. In the sentencing, Jody stated, "I love these children." Jody stated, "I love these children." Okay, okay. Both were convicted on 4 counts. They're supposed to serve their sentences consecutively. It said 1 to 15 years. I don't know if it's 1 to 15 years per count, which would be 4, or if it's 1 to 15 years total for the 4 counts. They didn't really specify that. I was confused. It says minimum of 18 months before they decide if they get parole or if they have to spend more time in prison. So 18 months is what I understood from the documentary, for them to come up to see if they can get parole, and that's based on, I guess, how they act in jail, their activities, what they're into, things like that. Following the sentencing, it says Kevin, Ruby's husband, filed for divorce. This documentary was made 1 month ago. It claims that Kevin is still fighting for the rights to his children. It says Kevin is still fighting to regain custody of the children. So my question is, look, I'm not perfect. I'm not in this situation. I've just been trying to do research. I was offended when someone called me someone had referenced me as the 8-passenger mom, and I didn't get it, okay? So I had to do some research on this. But I think I'd like to watch a few more documentaries to try to figure out kind of where the dad was in all this, because they said that Ruby was isolated from the rest of her family. So pretty much there was no one else around, I'm assuming. But where was the father? He didn't pick up on that with his kids. Like, the kids acted normal. You know, they said in the documentary that this went on for months. So then my other question is, did she abuse the other 2 kids? 2 of the kids were out of the home. So that left 4 kids. 2 girls and then the youngest girl and boy. So the youngest girl and boy supposedly were abused for months. Where were the other 2 girls? Because when the cops showed up at Pam's house, the girls were there. But where had they been while the abuse was going on for months? I have a lot of questions. Did they not pick up on that their siblings were abused? Like, I'm not so sure, y'all. There's a lot going on in this. Like I said, this is the first documentary I've watched on it, so I'm not too sure. But after I watched that, YouTube came up with this. Inside Ruby Frank's life in prison. 16 minutes, 56 seconds. I thought that this was like a follow-up where maybe they would interview Ruby in prison. So I went to watch that. 16 minutes, 56 seconds. I thought it would be like an interview or something from jail, but it wasn't, you all. It's more like people talking about what prison life is like. It's not necessarily an interview with Ruby or Jody, okay? It's mostly like speculation. People talking about like what Ruby and Jody will experience in jail. So I didn't really get anything from this second one, right here, that says her life in prison. I didn't really get any information from that. So, you can watch it if you want, but it's just really people talking about what life in prison will be like, when they can be up for parole, things like that. So you don't really get any information from that. But I will say this documentary, I have so many more questions. But I think the biggest concern is how will these children heal from this trauma? And it makes me kind of think when I go back through my notes, whenever Ruby was arrested, they stated that her oldest daughter on social media, her oldest daughter posted something and it just said finally. And that made me think, what's the relationship there? Did the older kids experience things along the way and then nothing was caught or no one knew? Because when she gets arrested, her oldest daughter says finally. It's obvious that her oldest daughter knew something was going on. So my thing is, why the two youngest kids? Why now? I always wonder why people snap, y'all. I always try to figure out, why do people snap and what are the signs? So y'all look into it. Let me know. Comment, whatever. I might have to do a follow-up and do some more information, y'all. But this is on YouTube. The Law and Crime. Okay?